71 years ago, Singapore burned in the aftermath of one of the British Empire's greatest defeats. The impregnable fortress fell in a mere week to what the Westerners consider an inferior race. By the evening of 15 February 1942, Japanese troops and tanks paraded through Singapore while their planes whizzed victoriously overhead. The British had boasted that the Japanese would never take Singapore, which was equipped with 4 airfields, a naval base, and tens of thousands of troops from throughout the empire. The locals were too confident of victory, as 2 of the Royal Navy's best ships, HMS Repulse, a veteran of the First World War, and HMS Prince of Wales, a state-of-the-art battleship that participated in the sinking of the pride of the German Navy Bismarck, steamed into the Singapore naval base. Who would ever thought that in less than 2 months, the Japanese would sink both the Royal Navy's ships, gain total air supremacy, break through the thick jungles of Malaya, and have Singapore firmly in their hands. Thus began our harsh 3.5 years of military occupation under the Japanese. The fall of Singapore was not so much a defeat for Britain as it had been for us. It shook us into realization that nobody could safeguard our interests and our sovereignty but ourselves. We are a tiny island nation-state sitting on one of the world's most volatile regions. We are in many cases similar to the Jewish state of Israel in the Middle East, a tiny minority nation surrounded by big Islamic Muslim neighbors. Israel is a nation forged by war. Since its independence, the Israelis have been fighting for their right to reside in what they call their promised land against hostile Arab neighbors who want the land of Palestine to stay Arab. Singapore was much more fortunate. Our independence came peacefully, but with the announcement of the withdrawal of British troops east of the Suez in the 1960s, Singapore found itself in a very vulnerable position. We were going to be defenseless, and lessons from the occupation rang in our heads once more. No longer can we rely on foreigners to keep us safe. And thus was born the conscription program in Singapore, which would soon become what we know as national service, copying the Israeli model and inviting several Israeli experts to help us build what they then called a civilians militia. The journey of our NS begins. Since the establishment of our national service in 1967, it is compulsory for every Singaporean son aged 18 to serve in the defense of Singapore. Most will end up with the Singapore Armed Forces, though few will serve in the Singapore Police Force or the Singapore Civil Defence Force. But to make things easier, we will just focus on the SAF bit. Upon enlistment, recruits are sent to Pulau Tekong off the coast of Singapore for their basic military training, which lasts 9 weeks. Over the course of their time in BMT, recruits will be equipped with the basic military knowledge, such as how to handle a rifle and how to throw a grenade. Also, they are trained physically and mentally to prepare them for times of war. After BMT, the recruits will be assigned to one of the various divisions in the SAF, of which they will serve for the rest of his time in NS until their operationally ready date. During this time in NS, every Singaporean son is transformed from civilian to a soldier, the protected to protector, and our boy to man. It's been 46 years since the establishment of our national service, and just by looking at the SAF now, we can see how we have grown from a civilians militia using World War II vintage weaponry into an effective modern fighting force. Equipped with the latest military equipment and technology, the SAF today is arguably the best fighting force in Southeast Asia. At current, our military arsenal includes modern Leopard 2 main battle tanks from Germany, AH-64 Apache attack helicopters, F-15 Eagle and other warplanes from America, artillery pieces and armored fighting vehicles made in Singapore, frigates from France, and even submarines from Sweden. Today, the SAF is a cohesive and effective fighting force of the 21st century, capable of repelling and neutralizing any threat to our nation quickly and efficiently. From the Navy to the Air Force and Army, we are constantly upgrading our military to keep up with standards and to ensure that our sovereignty is never again violated nor threatened. Thank you.